OST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What's up, everybody? We are Audio here today in episode 248 of The Hodder Show. I have the guys doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I hope you guys are staying safe, you're staying healthy, and, that maybe hopefully life's starting to look a little more normal, or at least we're, kind of getting there. People are getting the money that they need. Maybe some people that were laid off or maybe starting to get back to work. People who were on quarantine are starting to be able to kind of get out of that a little bit. But who knows what the world looks like for you. But either way, I hope that it's looking a little brighter. And then if it's not, that hopefully during this podcast, I'm going to be able to, take you out of it for a little bit here, as I have a really fun episode for you here today as I sit down with AJ from Words Like Wildfire for a really, really fun chat. We cover a ton of ground. Of course, we talk about the elephant in the room, which is how he's handling the COVID-19 pandemic as a musician and kind of what he's doing. And as someone who actually put himself in quarantine voluntarily, and kind of his decision behind that and everything. So that was a really interesting part of the chat. And then we dive into his start with music, his influences, joining with Words Like Wildfire, the recording of their latest EP and songs. And we will hear in its entirety their brand new single, which came out on April 17th. So we did record this a couple weeks ago, just full disclosure. You guys are going to hear that in its entirety. If you have not heard it yet, Painted Pictures, it is a badass song, and we're going to hear all about the recording process of that. And I do want to give you guys a little heads up. There were a couple moments where there were some really bad connection issues. Because we were doing video, we decided to do video. So just if there's a moment or two where he freezes or anything, just give it a quick second. I'm going to cut out, and we redid any moments that were like really, really bad. So if there's some awkward cuts or anything, just please bear with us. I am not a video guy. I'm an audio guy. So I apologize if there's some really awkward cuts or anything, but I'm going to do my best to bring you guys a great video podcast here today. However, if you are listening to this on the audio version of The Hodder Show, do not worry. You're not going to miss anything crazy extravagant. It's just the video adds a little bit more of a kind of a more personal thing, especially with it happening right now where you're not really being able to see people and the social aspect. So definitely I think this was a really fun idea to do video. And also real quick, I think there's a couple times during this where I look miserable as hell. And I promise I was not. My resting face when I'm listening to people is very, because I'm focusing. And I was pretty tired, I think, that day, so my eyes were a little closed maybe a couple times. I was But it was really fun. I do apologize if at some moment you guys are looking at me, you're like, does he even want to be here? I loved this chat. AJ's such a great storyteller, and you guys are really going to dig it. I hope you enjoy it half as much as I did. And again, you're staying safe and everything while you're listening to this podcast or watching it. We are ready to jump right into it. My chat with AJ from Words Like Wildfire. Let's get into it. Hey guys, being joined on the show right now by AJ Chmilar.
What up?
Words Like Wildfire, bassist and vocalist extraordinaire.
That's me.
Does some beautiful harmonies and clean singing and shouts every once in a while too. And
I scream a lot. I scream, sing. That is kind of my thing.
Well, man, this is cool because we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and it's nice to finally get to be able to have this chat with you. As the people can see, if you're watching this on video, we are, you're in quarantine right now. This is
I'm in a box. Yeah. I've been hanging out at the girlfriend's house. We were just, she's actually a nurse, so she's been looking for jobs and trying to get her way into this, which is terrifying for me, but also really just, I'm super proud of her, but it's also terrifying for obvious reasons. but I work at a mall, man. So I was just like, no, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be like, I'm not worried about getting it. I'm worried about passing this disease on to somebody who couldn't handle it. And there's, you know, like I've got people in my immediate family who do fit those descriptors, you know, like are over 60, have asthma, smoke most of their life, don't now, but did, you know, and it's freaky. So I just was like, no, I'm out. I'd rather look crazy and lose some money. And I'm in the position where I can survive missing one paycheck, and I'm privileged to be able to say that. And I realize not everyone's in that same boat, whether your job was deemed, you know, essential or not or whatever. But I have nothing, and I always have had the, you know, utmost gratitude for people who do those kind of thankless bullshit jobs where it's like, if you do it right, nobody notices it and just takes it for granted. But if you do it wrong, everybody's going to tear up one side of you and down the other. But then you get told, oh, it's unskilled labor. So I don't know. I've always had a really raised eyebrow about that whole mentality, and people are like, oh, well, then just get a better job. It's like, I'm not complaining about my job. I like my job. I'm great at my job, and it's cool. I like going there. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how to explain to you. You should give a shit about that guy too. Like, I don't know. But that was kind of the whole thing. But this is like, no, I'm not gonna infect someone and screw over somebody who can't afford to not go to work. If you want to go and you want to do that, it's like, that's on you. I can't make anybody do anything. But I wasn't going to be a vector for that to spread further.
Yeah, for the people that can, and it's kind of the elephant. It's kind of the elephant in the room right now when I'm having people on. Like, as we're recording this, everything is still pretty dicey and everything's still pretty increasing and everything. But hopefully, by the time this drops in a couple weeks, you know, just full disclosure, guys, we're recording this a couple weeks in advance here. But hopefully by the time this airs, they'll be like, what are they talking about? The curve is being flattened. There's all this good stuff happening. But
I hope so. I really hope so. And that's been kind of the pull my hair out thing, where it's just like, we have to overreact because you won't know if I want to overreact and nothing to have happened and us be like, oh, because that's the point. That's how you will know it worked. It's like one of those bullshit jobs. If we do it right, we're not even going to notice. That's the whole, that's the point. That's what we want to happen. But if it's just like, oh, it's just the flu, like,
guys, no, it's not.
No. Like, I don't want to be, and you don't want to be crazy alarmist and, you know, over like, oh my God, the sky is falling. But at the same time, it's like, no, like, please take this very seriously and change your routine. So I don't know, but I'm not a doctor. I play bass and I sell vapes. So like, I can't sit here and pontificate on the medical implications of some disease that I can barely pronounce. So
I've got COVID-19, coronavirus. Yeah, bro, I saw them open for anthrax in '88. Like, it's
right.
But it's funny, like, in the position I'm in, where, like, you know, I'm still going to work. I work in janitorial in one of the en routes on the highway. So
okay. So thank you for two reasons. One, because thank you for keeping the world clean while it's infected. Straight up, like, like, I can't understate that. Thank you, man. And also, I have slept at probably every single en route on the 401. So thank you for keeping my tour bathroom, vanity, bedroom, kitchen, cantina. Thank you for keeping that habitable. I do appreciate that. It's for every band that has slept in a crappy RV in an en route trailer. Thank you, or an en route rest stop. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, you ever come by?
We're not calling the cops as well.
Yeah. Well, if you ever come by the Newcastle one, hit your boy up. I'll get you guys a coffee or something. But anyway,
dude, I've legit slept there.
Have you actually?
For sure. Yes.
That's hilarious. I wonder if I was. I bet you we could probably collate that I was probably there at that point.
Well, it would have been like the latest it could have been would have been like 2013.
Okay, so no, I wasn't there. Okay, so I wasn't there at the time, but yeah.
Because it would have been Forever Cadence, and Forever Cadence stopped existing for some. We were kind of doing the America and like Quebec thing then, so we were the other direction.
Sorry, that was just cut out there for a sec. We're full disclosure. We're dealing with a little bit of connection issues, guys. So if at any point
we crappy Wi-Fi canteen or crappy Wi-Fi quarantine.
Yeah. So sorry, you said it was 2015. You said was when Forever Cadence stopped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
May 2015. So, but the last part of that was, we were playing a lot of shows, but it was more like, Quebec and then like northeastern and kind of like Michigan, PA, in the States, more than anything. So we were the other way. We were sleeping in other rest stops.
Okay.
Canada still has to step its rest stop game up though. Like for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like American travel centers and whatever. They're like they're dangerous, man. Like you can get lost in those things. They're great.
They've got showers, and the amount of truckers I have coming in from the States, and they're like, "Where's your showers?" And I'm like, "Sorry,
What? We don't have showers. Yo, but the showers in the like the Flying J's or the wherever it is you end up going, but like they're nicer than my bathroom at home, man.
Yeah.
Like just that one stall, they're beautiful. Like tiled floor to ceiling on a big fan, a mirror. It's like, okay, these are angles of my body that I didn't ever want to see, and I'm seeing them in a
What the
truck
hell is
stop
that?
for some. Yeah, like it's great.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
man. No, hopefully, yeah, exactly. Hopefully, by the time anybody's this, they're like, wow, why is their connection so bad, and why are they talking about it like it's the end of the world? And I hope it's not, and I hope it's just we figure this out and we get our stuff together. But
For sure. Well, I mean, even me, I'm seeing over the last few days, like the only people I'm really seeing come through are the truck drivers, and like every couple hours, maybe a random person coming through. Like it's people are starting to stay home. They are starting to follow the whole, stay home, flatten the curve, all that kind of stuff.
I
But
hope so. I mean,
but I'll
there's a Tim Hortons out my window, and it's infuriating, the line that's out there, and it's like, I don't want to sit here and judge anybody, and I don't want to tell you, what's essential and what's not, and this and that, but like, I have a hard time believing that, like, the people standing there with like 4 or 5 kids around them. It's like, you don't need to be at Tim Hortons right now. You don't need to be standing around 6 other people right now. Like, it's like, go home. Like, I'll buy you a tin of ground coffee, and I'll show you how to make it. Like, just go home.
yeah. That's
I don't know.
Yeah, we still get, the families of 4 or 5 into the building to go get Wendy's and stuff. And I'm like, seriously, like,
Yeah, and it's like, yes, the food's here, but it's like, because we're a rest stop, we're a truck stop. Like, the people who are delivering those essential goods that you should be going to the grocery store and only the grocery store to get, like, no, you can't eat out right now. No, you can't. No, you can't do that. I'm sorry, it sucks, but like,
yeah,
the longer you don't do it, the longer we all have to do it. Like,
simple process, but either way, I
man.
wanted to touch on it, and we've got a lot of ground to
sure.
cover, but
We
it
gotta
seemed
acknowledge
like
it.
it was it seemed like
We
kind
gotta
of the
acknowledge
elephant
it.
in the room thing, and you were one of the first people I saw, like I said, that kind of were like, hey, I'm bowing out, and I was
Yeah?
like, that's cool,
Yeah.
like that was cool of you to do that, and especially in where you work, like you would touch on earlier, you never know who you're gonna encounter in a big town mall, and it's definitely was the safer thing to do. So I'm glad you were able to kind of bow out and to keep yourself healthy so you can keep making kick-ass music.
Oh, thank you. That was. I'm not going to say that wasn't a reason, but it was certainly low on the list. But yeah, no, man, it was. Yeah, no, it was a weird situation to be in, because like I said, I'm in, being able to get off for a couple weeks, because I did end up being able to have a little bit saved away that I could be like, okay, I can vanish for a couple weeks. Like, yeah, I'm gonna have to find a different way to make money. Like, I'll go make masks or something, like, depending on how long we're gonna be, because like, whatever, I won't go on that tangent. But it was like, I'm not gonna stand in a mall that has a massive tourist flow through it as well, just because of where we are. Yeah.
You never
I had to pull the
know.
trigger. I had to, I was like, I literally said, I was like, I love my job and I'm really good at it. So like, I don't really care if it gets me fired. I can go find another vape store. But they were very, very compassionate and understanding.
Well, that's
and
good.
They're a great employer. They really are, for the amount of bullshit that we do get put through as retail employees. And it's like, they know that, because kind of everybody who's been in this company kind of came up through the trenches that way. And it was run by kids, really. When I started, like, the oldest person, I think, above me, other than the founder, was maybe 40, like maybe. So like, as far as, you know, big money retail goes, it's like there wasn't a lot of dinosaurs, you know, if you will, to be like, oh no, if you're sick, you just show up, you just gotta
keep
working.
working,
It's like,
bud.
no, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, man, like if you don't come and put your hands on people's vapes all day and hand people like stuff they're gonna put in their mouth and get me. No, stay home. Like, go, stay. No. And it was kind of the same thing with this. It's like, no, we get it. Like that's cool. Like you can't risk your family's safety for coming to work, and we're probably gonna have to make some adjustments, and they did. You know, we all ended up, most of the retail locations ended up getting laid off. But they were super compassionate. Kind of like, hey, the goal is to hire you all back as soon as the machine's rolling, but we need to make sure there's a machine to invite you back to first, because we can't pay you if we're not making money. Like we wish we could, but we just can't. So
yeah, and that's kind of that's the unfortunate part, is this is going to be.
It just is.
Yeah, it's going to be a kind of a scary thing as far as what the world's going to look at when this is all said and done. But that's something we won't dwell on, you know.
No, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to spend their money, but like if you're getting that emergency benefit, it's like if they screw up and they send you too much, they're going to get it back. Don't go blow it on stupid shit. Like you're going to regret it.
I'm going to go buy TV. It's like, no.
Don't do it. Don't do
that,
it,
bro.
Like if you can afford to pay your rent, pay your rent. Like I get the whole, like if you can't, you can't. Like that's, like I get it. I'm not going to tell anybody how to allocate their stuff, but it's like if you can, do it. Like we got to try to like keep putting wood in the fire. Like even if it's just popsicle sticks, like put something in there so it keeps going. But I don't know. I digress.
So we're back.
Mic check.
AJ here. As you can see, he's in a different location now. We were having some connection issues, so
I'm in a new box.
He's in a new box.
I'm in a new box.
He's traveled out of isolation in the bedroom to isolation in the kitchen.
Got our new vape that doesn't make terrible sounds on a microphone.
Yay!
Yay.
Oh man, it's funny, like talking about quarantine and work and all that stuff. You know, the main reason, obviously, when we started talking about having you on, I wanted to, of course, cover a whole lot of ground. Obviously, I didn't know this was going to happen when all this started up. But getting into kind of the nitty-gritty stuff here.
Yeah, man.
When did you first kind of start discovering music? What was some of the first music that you discovered?
This is an annoyingly two-parted answer. I discovered music literally driving around as a kid in my mom's car. I was fascinated by songs. I remember being a little kid and just like figuring out how to listen to different instruments and being like, okay, what is that? Like instruments I'd never heard, and like I didn't know what they were. Like there was a lot of, like, my grandparents listened to a lot of like Grand Ole Opry, and like my granddad still listens to like 30s stuff and like all that, like, you know, like the old music where it like sounds like somebody song, like people something like that. But like that stuff's awesome. Like it's so layered, and there's so many like there's so many guitarists from that era who were playing just like basically into a tin can, but they were shredding. Like just over the, and it's crazy. But again, I digress. So like listening to that and dissecting it, that was totally separate of wanting to do it. Like I didn't know that was a thing that I could even do, never mind how much I'd like it. But fast forward and kind of glossing over a lot, but like my mom would listen to, I remember Kiss 92.5 in Toronto is now like, it's like just kind of generic now, but it used to be Kiss 92 Country, and that's all she'd listen to in the car. That's all she'd listen to in the car that I remember. And I remember like Garth Brooks and the Dixie Chicks and like all that kind of like newish pop country kind of stuff. And I didn't love it, but it was kind of all I knew. So I knew all these songs. And then I went to school and my friends had their music, and like I showed them and they're like, what's this country crap? And like but at the same time, a bunch of them started listening to it and they gave me this different music. And then I just started joining bands and started realizing like, oh, these guys that play guitar are so cool. My friends that play guitar are so cool. And I got a bass thrust into my hands because at like 12, 13, because all my friends were cool and played guitar and they needed someone to play bass, basically. but yeah, no, it was, I remember that it was, my friend Harley, shout out to Harley. I say this to him all the time. I was like, he's like, oh man, you're so much better than me now. I'm like, well, yeah, now, cause I do it and you don't, but like that guy taught me to play guitar, like the very, very basics. And it was Time of Your Life by Green Day. He was like, here, play these 3 notes and then this 1 note, when it changes. And then there was like a couple of Chili Peppers things. And then by learning those songs, I'd be like, oh, who's this Green Day? And then I figured out Mike Dirnt is still one of the coolest punk bassists that I've ever listened to. Like,
very underrated.
He's so underrated, but I think that's again like what we were talking about, those jobs that like if you do them right, nobody notices. And Mike does that so fucking well. Like yes, you have Longview, which is just the apocryphal story is he wrote that on acid, and it's just running scales inside out the whole time basically. But it's awesome. But you also have really underrated stuff. Like you have like the whole Warning record kind of flew under the radar, but the bass lines on that are great. Like they're like all these crazy, like Minority's bass line is like, it's like a hoedown breakdown.
Yeah.
It's the coolest shit. And like that was one of the first like hard mode breakdowns, bass lines that I learned. And then Flea, obviously learning Chili Peppers. And there is really simple shit. Like you can play, I can't even make the other side. That was one of the first things I learned because it's nice and slow. Boom, doom, 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 doom. Like that's basically the whole song. Like yeah, there's the crazy bridge at the end, but you just kind of be like, yeah, I don't know that part. When you're there. Yeah, there's a bang, ding, ding. Well, you just like hit the lowest note in the scale over and over and over again on the beat. It's like, yeah, close enough. But going from that to going to local shows was a huge thing of being in bands. I saw the Flatliners in the Caledon East Community Complex. I don't know how many times, and those guys just blew me away. They were so tight, and they played so fast, and they played so loud, and everybody knew every word to all of their songs, and they were just the cool kids from Richmond Hill who would come to Caledon and just flex on every single but they were the nicest dudes. Like they weren't pawn at all. They were one of the first locals I saw who really understood that your performance starts from the moment you show up on the property of the venue. It doesn't start when you turn your amp on. It doesn't start when you talk into your no. You walk in character. You load in character. Turn it on the second you turn it. That is you. Whether it's a character or not, that is you the entire time. And they understood that. And
that's actually some. So I don't mean to interrupt, but just that's such a interesting thought because
that's the difference between a good band and a great band. Yes. That's the difference between a good band and a great band. Honestly, is you fucking play the role the whole time. Mm-hmm. The Ramones were experts at that. They really preached that quietly but assertively the whole time. It was like, no, it's an attitude. Like they had like, I'm going to butcher. I honestly forget which two because my punk history is terrible, but I think it was Joey and somebody. They fucking hated each other. They hated each other. They like, I'm going to say it again. They fucking hated each other. Like to most of my friends, you're musicians. Imagine being in a band with somebody who you hate, who screwed your girlfriend or whatever, or do that, and you hate them, and you can't do that. Like I couldn't do that, but they did. They played every night. They played together, and they rode in the same bus, or maybe they didn't, and sometimes they didn't, but they made it work, and they played that character. They could shake off. They could leave that at coat check, and get on stage and give the people what they paid for. 20% battery. Give the people what they paid for, and then you can turn it back. You can then pick that back up at coat check. You can give your ticket back, and you can say, okay, I don't like you. I don't want to talk to you right now. But on stage, that if that's not the character you're playing, then that's not the character you're playing. But you do it from the moment you get there. And Flats were really good at that. And there was a lot of cool locals. Like there's a local called Love and Terror Cult from Brampton, Streetsville kind of area, and a lot of them worked at Culture Rising when it first kind of started out in Streetsville, and they were a huge influence on me because they were this weird avant-garde noise rock that I'd never heard before. It was mathcore and chaos, and it was awesome, like them and Ghost Stories and Strongman Fallacy, and but it was also Shotgun Rules and Ceremonial Snips and Il Scarlet, but they'd all play the same shows. Like those were the local shows I grew up on, where it was like just as likely to see a ska band and a deathcore band as it was to see, you know, two guys playing an acoustic guitar and then a dude, like, you know, rubbing an SM58 on a snare drum, screaming at it. Like those could all be the same bill and it would make sense. But yeah, it was really cool. And then seeing those guys and just being like, yeah, I want to be those people. Like, yeah, I want to be that dude. I want to be, that's really cool. Just started, like, I feel like kind of how everybody does. Like, you sit in a garage and you're terrible and you play with your friends and they're terrible too. And you get a little bit better together and you learn other people's songs and you play them terribly and then you get better. And then you just keep doing that. Like it's literally just it's the first step to being kind of good at anything is sucking at it entirely. So you just have to embrace the suck and just be willing to be naked in front of, like, if you can't, you know, screw up and perform in front of your band members at rehearsal, then how do you have any business trying to get people that you don't know to come and watch you do it? Mm-hmm. You know, you got to be.
That's like an inspirational quote poster or something. What you just said there, embrace the suck. Yeah,
that's an Adventure Time quote. Is what
okay, yeah. Okay.
I think it's a badly quoted Adventure Time quote, but it's the spirit of it's there somewhere.
The spirit of it is there for sure.
That's right. Well, somebody's doing dishes downstairs. I don't know if you guys can hear the pounding away. Someone's washing navy pans below me.
Well, it's what you got to do to make it work, and you know we're I'm just making it clear that no one is chopping up bodies. It is someone is doing dishes. This is normal noise. It's fine. You won't hear any screaming, and if you do, it's just a chef yelling. It's a chef yelling at people to get their orders ready or whatever. It's like, yo, where does this guy? Why is he? Does he live above a freaking morgue or something? No, that's not what's going on here.
No, and they're only doing takeout, and they're very responsible with their social distancing. I don't know how the world's going to be when we release this. They keep saying that. Yeah. It's like, you guys are crazy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Everything's closed, or everything is back to normal now.
Everything's back to normal, which I hope, but I doubt.
But you were talking about kind of like when you first got started in some of the bands, you were checking out some of your influences. Is there anyone else kind of like you had mentioned Mike Dirt, you mentioned Flea? Is there any other bass players that you saw? And also guitar players, because that's kind of the other part of it is, you know, I've seen you playing guitar a lot. You've got a nice, beautiful PRS guitar that you rock out on once in a while. And
I do. Blue's my friend. She's been in her case for far too long. But yeah, no, I played guitar in Forever Cadence for a long time. It wasn't always called Forever Cadence, but like on and off with kind of the same core people. That was almost 10 years. I mean, I'm 30, so like that's 30% of my life. It's the third of my life, right? So it's still it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. I don't long for the past by any stretch of the imagination, but I have to recognize that had a really big impact on me. The way I tour, the way I perform, the way I try to fit in, and like I again, that was me learning too. Like there's lots of shit I would if I could do it over, that I would do differently, that I would change. I would get a better rig faster. I would do all these other things. But that's getting a little ahead of this. I started as the bass player of that group, and then we got another guitarist. And that kind of happened a couple times in different bands. As I would start as the bassist who sang, and then we'd lose a guitarist, and I'd be like, okay, well, screw it. I either help write the songs or I know all the rhythm guitar parts anyway because I play the bass, and most of the stuff we were playing, rhythm guitar and bass, were essentially just the same thing, right? They basically just followed each other around. So it was like, okay, I can translate this pretty easily. And then I realized there wasn't more I could do on guitar, but there was different I could do on guitar and other I could do on guitar that not that I couldn't do it. Well, some things you can't do on bass that you can do on guitar. There's extra strings for the most part. But just like accompanying myself to be able to sing on an acoustic was a big milestone for me, because I had always only really ever worried about one note at a time, or going you know, like quickly between one note as opposed to changing complex shapes. And like now, like when I think every guitarist, when most of us, when we die, our hands just get a rigor mortis into a bar chord, because my whether you use them or not, or you think they're evil or easy or whatever, it's like, okay, fine, but like there's one of the easiest ways to play a major chord on the guitar is that shape. So I feel like everyone you're going to end up in just locked like that one day. But yeah, transitioning between them and then kind of learning how to accompany myself. And then we were even talking about like Audacity and like kind of learning on training wheels programs like that of layering vocals and layering guitars and like playing an acoustic cover of something and being like, oh, like, well, I know the bass line now because I know the chords, so I can kind of figure something out. I'll put that on there and like, oh, I'll sing separately from it instead of singing at the same time because I can make it sound better. And learning to do that made it easier to be in bands, and then being in bands made me want to record more things and show them to people and be like, hey, I wrote this song, let's learn it. But that diminished more into being like an active learning performer. Like I've learned decorating things that already exist and kind of putting my fingerprints on stuff than I am at necessarily making something from just raw material, pulling something out of the ether. I can write pretty okay structures of songs, and I stress the pretty okay. But that's not a self-deprecating thing. That's just recognizing, hey, I'm not really great at making you the sculpture, but I can point out little things that you could probably add or maybe tweak this a little bit. And I see exactly what you're trying to do. Might I suggest this to get that message across a little bit?
Yeah,
and I'm good at that. But
you can sprinkle that AJ dust on it a little bit, you know.
I hope so. That's my goal, right? And not in so far as being a producer, because I need to perform. I need to be on stage. That's where I'm happiest. I went to a high school that had a very focused, like we had arts majors. Like I auditioned to go to the drama program in my school. And that was a big part of like my identity for the longest time. So I was a drama kid. I was a performer. I was a theater kid. Like I was in musicals and we did lots of theater and like writing our own skits and learning how to, practice like you would perform but do it in front of nobody. Like to have a skit of 2 or 3 people and go and practice that in an empty room and learn to tell your jokes and hope they're funny and leave enough time for, laughs, but not be awkward on stage, and learn how to be dynamic and freeze and do all of these things. And a lot of that translates beautifully into live shows, into lighting and timing and blocking and moving the lines, like knowing how to do things like from the dance stuff that I learned, and from the vocal choir stuff that, like, Avery's got a background in choir. Avery's got a background in dance and drama and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that mindset incorporated, but a lot of it also clashes right up against that punk DIY, whatever happens kind of mentality. So we're constantly towing that be wild and unpredictable, but also have a few canned, like open script markers that you kind of hit along the way.
Yeah, we know this is going to happen here. Right. Okay, hey, let's do this here. This will be fun. But then if something happens in between, let's jam on it, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's like we play to a clip track. We play to a program. So like, it's great because it's a safety net. If you fall off for that 1 or 2 beats, you're like, okay, no, I'm here. Everyone's kind of has that same stopwatch going. At the same time, is if you all muff it up too much, the track doesn't stop for you. The track doesn't compensate for you. And that's, I think, something that gets lost on a lot of people. It's like, oh, it's fake. It's you just press play, whatever. It's like, to a degree, I might agree with you if it wasn't actually played by a human and then just played back. It's like that someone in our band played most of those things or created most of those things to be played in time. But also, if we screw up, it doesn't care. It just keeps going. Like, it's very much 10% battery. I'm gonna have to plug myself in for a minute. But it's very much like a dance performance in that regard, where it's like, if you screw your routine up, the music doesn't care. You have to figure out where you are and be like, okay, I have to skip this step. I have to lose that point. If it's a gymnastics routine, if it's a figure skating routine or whatever. So to compare it in that way, I feel like is more accurate when you're playing to a complex track that actually adds something, as opposed to going up and essentially lip syncing with your instrument. That I don't agree with. I think that's dumb. But if you have something that adds an element, if you have, samples in a song that
for sure
are part of the production, you need them in there. But like, if you have a keyboard player, I love you, you're wonderful, but like, we don't need a keyboard player to do on one song.
Yeah.
Or have that one thing and that one breakdown for 40 seconds, because it is just pepper and salt for us. It's not an instrument. It's not a feature. It doesn't need to be played, but it does need to be audible.
Yeah, for sure. Something like and we'll kind of finish this thought and then you can go get your phone in there. But it's like, if just for an example, getting ready to switch gears into talking about words like Wildfire, like in that beginning sample of The Rain.
Right.
You're not going to have someone there playing that one part.
No, because we don't need
it
it.
Needs to be there.
But and I will also add, if and when we ever get to play a live show again, when you see that song played, that sample does play. I play something different over top of it almost every single night. And Avery will do a little drum jam, or he won't. Or I'll do a little funky bass thing, or I won't. Or I'll, but that part of it is that kind of open, free. Okay, I know that this is reliably going to happen every single time. And I can't screw the computer up by jamming something weird, so I'm just going to go and play some self-indulgent bullshit over here for a second. Or maybe I won't. But no matter what I do, I have that freedom for that second. But then we know when that big swell comes in, everyone's going to do a big stomp and come in and come in on the downbeat and whatever. That's that marker that you have to hit. But what you do between play 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4 until we get there, that's on you, buddy. You just come in time. And that's the fun part of it.
If you want to stand there and stare at your feet, okay, cool, you can
Go
do
for
that.
it.
But as long as you're on time.
Right, but you better do the biggest feet up kick posy jump and land on one if you're going to stand there and be boring for that couple seconds. Yeah.
You better just be prepping, ready to go.
Exactly, have that just the bull kicking the dirt back. Exactly right. Exactly right.
That's awesome, man. Well, so we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back with AJ, we're going to get into talking about words like Wildfire, him getting involved with that. And also we're going to talk about their latest 2 new singles that are badass. So when we come back here with AJ from Words Like Wildfire.
See you soon.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listen to the Hodder Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen with great rates and service. You cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under Jaybird Digital Arts. That's JAYBIRD digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. And now let's get back to the show. All right, we're back with AJ from Words Like Wildfire here. And talking about kind of his start in music and all that fun stuff and the quarantine and blah, 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 all that. Let's get into now you joining up with Words Like Wildfire. How did that whole thing start?
It was honestly a lot of just kind of luck, but also circumstantial luck, really. I was actually at a Cold Shoulder show. Shout out Cold Shoulder. They were playing with Attila. And I met up with a mutual friend who was kind of thinking about maybe joining. And then his exact words were like, I didn't realize how serious these guys were. Like, I can't commit like that. I'm like, oh, I can. Like, cool. Like, who are these people? Like, oh, it's at that time it was Ian and Cole, and I was like, oh yeah, I know them. So it ended up just being like a buddy band for a while. But we worked for like a year before We played a show before we released anything, before we just got the live show together, got the EP demo. Like we pre-pro'd that for months. Like I don't remember how long, but months before we even took it to the studio with Sam. And Sam Guyana is a gifted engineer and producer and mixer and all of those things. And he's been behind the desk on 99% of the stuff I've ever done, for good reason. But we took those to him almost finished, or so we thought. And then they got chopped and screwed a whole bunch, some more than others. But yeah, and I mean, even your review of that disc was like, it was like you're in the studio with this, man. Like that was great. I never got to personally tell you, but like it was great. Just the analysis of like, oh, how this started, and like you need this song and that, and it was like, yeah, yes, you nailed it. Wow, thanks, man. Like it was really cool. But it honestly just started of like when we were talking earlier about Forever Cadence, when that ended in 2015. I was kind of lost, man. Like it was hard. Like that was a huge part of my life. And it ran its course, and it wasn't like a sad, angry breakup or anything. It was kind of just like, okay, like most of us have kind of grown out of this, like whatever. I won't go into specific personal details because it's irrelevant now, honestly. And I'm like, we're all happy for each other and whatever. And Ryan and Adam went on to do Cold Shoulder, as did Mitch for a little while. And they popped off, and they did their own thing their own way, and I kind of had to figure out how to do mine. And it was, okay, I'm going to go back to basics, and pun very much intended, literally go back to basics. And I joined a band called Respire for a while, which have now turned into Melbourne. Shout out Melbourne, go check them out. They're very much of the same mindset of us, of kind of get everything together and then release it. So like they've started kind of slowly and quietly trickling things out, and it's going to get louder and cooler. So go check them out. Melbourne, spelled like the city in Australia. Check them out. They're dope. So joined them for a while, and then in this project called Bricker, again with another group of friends, and it was fun. Like I was playing guitar in that, and it was really just like thrashy, straight ahead hardcore. It was cool, but it was clear, and this isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing that it was just kind of like, okay, we're all clearly taking this a little bit a different amount of serious.
Yeah.
And it was hard because there were some clashing ideals of kind of like, okay, no, like there's going to be an incubation period here of like 8 to 12 months of like, we are basically radio silent. Like we have to write music and get it together and get kind of a social media presence figured out, how that's going to work and how that's going to look and do all that. And that wasn't right front of mind right away. And I think that was just a difference in both experiences and just personality. So that was just kind of like, okay, call it what it is and move on and whatever. And those relationships ended up being just as good or better than they were before. So I don't think I have any regrets in that part, and I hope nobody else does. But I joined Words, and it was very much that, okay, get the whole royal flush together before you start laying down the first card type of thing, right?
Be ready to go.
Exactly. Have the okay, now what out, because I find that was a real stumbling block. I noticed anyway from the outside for a lot of bands, is I would discover these cool bands and I'd be like, oh, dope. But then they have like one piece of content out, and it came out 3 months ago, and I'm trying to find more because I want more because it was good. And it's like, okay, but I want more, and I have to scroll through this feed of like 87 memes, which I mean in the landscape, like but at the same time you got to share that. You got to share that to get that traffic, to get the engagements on those posts, to do it. Like I get that, how that algorithm works painfully too well sometimes, but it's annoying when it's like, I want to hear your music. I want to hear, I want to see it. Like, even if it's just two dudes sitting talking to camera, just talking about music, like that would be really cool. But then there's nothing else to follow up. So we had that really try, or we had to really try rather to have, okay, we've got a single. Okay, but now what? Does it have a video? Like everything's got at least a streaming video, or the Quarter Life had a lyric video that we really tried to riff on for a while. And I mean, man, we I'm not going to say toured, but like we performed essentially a 5-song EP for a year and a half. And like, that's not fun to do all the time. Because like, I mean, even just practicing a song, I've heard it 100 times before anybody else does. So you get sick of those pretty fast. Like, and I'm under no illusion that we were on some, heavy touring cycle or playing big venues or anything like that. But I mean, you play the same song 100 times, you play the same song 100 times. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter how
where
many
it
you're
is.
playing it for or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But while we were doing that, we went through a bunch of member changes, and then when Avery joined the band, like we did, like at that time the drummer had changed I think twice, and we had Steve at first, and then our friend Justin filled in for a little while, and then Avery came and stuck, and he's really since become kind of the major songwriting force in the band, and lit a real fire under Ian's ass to become a more proficient songwriter than he was before. Not to say that he wasn't, but even more so, push him to learn new instruments and new music theory stuff that like I don't even understand. Like I have a very, very basic grasp of music theory, just enough to get by. And Ian's really taking it on himself to be like, okay, no, I'm gonna learn. I know what to do, but I want to learn why I'm doing it. Which is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is a cool thing, and I am both proud and envious of that, because I don't always have the drive to do that. I just say, it sounds good, it sounds right, it must be, it's fine, whatever. But no, so Avery joining and really like that really shifted the dynamic of the way we were doing things, because it was that one more brain behind that same mindset of, okay, no, let's decide what the end is going to be, work towards that, and then when we have all those pieces, we decide the pace at which those things are released, as opposed to putting these due dates on stuff that isn't done yet and then having to just constantly push stuff. And it's just, it becomes, you end up having to do it 4 times because you get it almost done and almost done and almost done and almost done. And then you have to change all the dates on all the ad mat. You have to change all that. And it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. There's nothing listen,
yeah.
I say this with all the love in the world to all the bands out there. And I'm looking in the camera when I say this. I love y'all. Okay. But as someone who, tries to promote bands and music as much as I can, when bands hit me up and they say, hey, we're dropping our EP on this day, and this is not directed at anybody or anything at all.
Generic statement.
It's happened.
Just general good advice. Yeah, just general good advice. Yeah.
If you're going to hit up someone to say, hey, can you do a review of our EP? Here's the EP. Hey, guys, I'm going to drop it on this day. Awesome. It'll be the day it's out. And then I go to get ready to drop it, and the day before you tell me, oh, sorry, it's being delayed by 2 months.
Oh my God, yeah. 2 months. And that's the thing. It's like, it's not 2 weeks. It's not 2 days. It's 2 months.
Or, hey, man, can we come on your show for an interview? We're going to talk about our upcoming EP. Awesome, let's do it. Right. And then there's no EP.
Well, and that was, I was going to say, on your first example, I was like, you know what, though, props for at least having the EP done to delay. To be able to delay it.
Yeah.
Like the reason you're delaying isn't, oh, we were supposed to record and we didn't. Because that almost happened to us, where we had we thought, okay, we're going to be in the studio this day, and we started kind of planning a release cycle, and we realized oh wait, there isn't studio time open then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's push this a little bit, and we did, and we had to kind of move things around. But as soon as those dates were locked in, it was like, okay, work then. We put them far enough away that it was realistic, but don't sit on the time and think you've got lots of time, because you've got lots of time until you don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were hitting me up I want to say a few months ago saying, hey, here's, I don't think I'm betraying confidence by saying this, but hey, here's what we're aiming for to drop the first single.
Right.
What do you think? Can we make this work? And unfortunately, with everything going on, we weren't able to make this work for the rain. But then, oh, hey, we have this other one coming up that I saw you guys are dropping, which obviously now as you guys are hearing this is out. So it's this is great. So everything works out. Yeah,
and it's funny because this song we originally intended, the whole release for everything was going to be the 17th of April, or is going to be the 17th of April. And that's when the audio streams are still going live. But we ended up, just by blessing, getting Canadian musician. They were like, oh, hey, we'd love to premiere the music video. I'm like, oh, great. We wanted 48 hours of exclusivity. Oh, okay, great. That's awesome. Because that just for those that doesn't make any sense to, it means they want to be the only people that have it for 48 hours. The only source that you can watch our video for,
the only place you can see it is there.
Right. Which is awesome, because then you have one more push into that stream in the interest of getting your video viewed, because that helps them. They get traffic to I mean, I don't think I have to explain that. If you're watching a podcast, you probably understand it. So all that being said, yeah, sure, great. So we did have to change, some stuff on the ad bat to, okay, the 15th here and the 17th here. But it was
once, and it was a 2-day difference, and it ended up being a good thing, as opposed to, oh yeah, man, here, go and, there's no work involved in making a whole podcast that reviews a thing with specific dates and that. And you mean you can't change all that now? So that's, yeah, exactly. So you want to have at very least a ballpark. Because I remember even like it was probably a year or two ago when you did that review. I was like, oh man, like I really want to talk to you about the new stuff, because we knew this EP was coming. It was planned, but these songs like they got pre-pro'd to death. Like I was sick of these songs before we got the masters, because we played them and changed them and done. But I mean, I still love them, don't get me wrong, but it's like you got to remember, like by the time anybody sees us play the last 3 songs to get released on this EP, by the time you see those live, like I've known these songs for 3 or 4 years. Like Avery's known these songs for freaking some of them 13 years. Like he had them written in 2007, 2008. They just kind of sat dormant. And it was like, oh, like I have this kind of orphan of a song. You guys want to learn it? And it actually, that specific example is actually Painted Pictures, which is the single that we're talking about. But so he's had that forever in some form, as far as I know, because I didn't like, he wrote that before I knew he existed. Right. And then he taught me that I wrote a slightly different bass line, but other than that,
put your twist on it. But
yeah, exactly. But I mean, and that really is the writing process, is to, again, as a token of gratitude, Avery's always very cognizant of leaving room for a bass line. And I think that's also because we often hear the same things. Like we'll hear, like he'll write some kind of a rhythm thing. I'm like, oh, there needs to be. He's like, I know there needs to be a little boodle doodle thing. I know. Yeah. I know. I hear it. Yeah. It's like I hear it too. I just haven't quite figured out what it is yet. It's like, okay, I'm gonna let you do. We respect each other enough to know what they're better at. It's like I'm not even gonna bother trying to do his shit because he's better at it than I am. At the same time, he's not gonna try to write the type of bass line I would write because I'm gonna write the type of bass line I would write better than he would. It's not that it's a better objectively piece of music. It's just that's what I'm gonna want to play. That's my contribution to it. And he really respects that line. There are parts where it's like, yo, please play this. I hear a really cool thing. It's this. Please play this. And it's like, yeah, of course. But even in the studio, like Sam wrote and recorded the beginning of one of my parts just because he's like, yo, I hear a thing. Can I just do it? Yeah. Instead of sitting here and trying to teach me what you just already hear, it's just like, here's my thing. You know what the scale is. Go do it. And then I learned it. And then I learned it after the fact. And I don't care about that. Like I'm not super into whoever plays it live must record it. It's like, no, like half the guitars on the EP were recorded by Avery, like because he wrote the song. So it's like he's got the muscle memory to play it track perfect there. Like does Anthony know it well enough to play it live? Yeah. Did Cody know it well enough to play it live at that time? Yeah. But to get it absolutely track perfect right then in the studio, it's like, no, here, it's going to be one take and we can move on. Do it. Done. Awesome. At the same time, I'm not going to try to record the drums because I can barely keep a normal like 4 on the floor, because that's not what I do. That's not my thing. But that was a cool thing about joining this band and having the mindset of, okay, get it all done, play on each other's strengths, like basically ignore your weaknesses, triple down on your strengths, because what you're not good at, somebody else probably is.
And that's the best thing to do when you're in any kind of a team situation, but also in a band, is lean on those people that have the strengths that maybe are your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But then also, it's not like they're going to be perfect at literally everything.
No.
So then it's like, okay, hey, I'm not so great at figuring out, this one particular. I'm great at writing riffs, but I'm not great at writing harmony riffs, or I'm not great at writing. Leads at all, right. I'm really good at writing a basic chorus melody, but my verses suck.
But where do I go from there? I'm not so good at. Yeah, exactly. And that's honestly, that's kind of me, is what you described. Is I'm really good at, like, I can throw, like, give me a key, okay, and I'll throw a bunch of riffs on a pile that are kind of in that key that kind of relate to each one another, but the glue, the transitions, which are such a massively important part to me in good songwriting, that's something I've always really struggled with. Like, how do you get from this chuggy part that probably has a funny name on some scratch pad that I've got to the other funny named thing? It's like, cool, but you need that little glue piece in the middle, or some way that they flow into one another. And I'm getting better at that, but very few, if any, of the good transitions, that wasn't me. That's not what I do. I can learn them, but I don't make them up very well.
For sure. Well, we've been talking about it, so I think it's high time that we crank into it right now.
Oh yeah.
You guys are hearing just now Painted Pictures by Words Like Wildfire featuring Luke Snyder of The Parallel. Now, as you guys are hearing this came out a couple of weeks ago, but if you have not seen the video, be sure to go check it out wherever you get your videos. And a big shout out again to Canadian Musician Magazine for, giving you guys that exclusive. We come back.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the song and about the recording and all that. When we come back here, crank it up. This is Painted Pictures. right, so as you guys just heard, that was Painted Pictures by Words Like Wildfire featuring Luke Snyder from The Parallel.
Huge thanks again to Luke, man. That was such a great day in the studio.
Yeah.
Like I posted even when we started posting about the song, I almost ruined one of his takes because there's this particularly the line is, I think we've missed all the turning points. And there's this really just low. He just digs right in, and I almost ruined that take because he did it, and I just involuntarily. I was sitting in the little room. If you've been in Sam's studio, you can see this. If you can't, it doesn't matter. But I was sitting on the other side of the door of the vocal booth, and I went, "Oh, come on!" Just involuntarily after he dropped this crazy, because it was the most.
Seriously?
It was like, man, fuck you! How can you make that sound? Like, no way. Like, that wasn't a human being that did that. And it was great. And he just killed it. Like, oh yeah, man, like, I'll drive myself down there. Like, when you want me to, yeah, cool. Like, just kind of just listen to it a couple times. Like, yeah, I can do that. Went in and he smashed it. And thank you so much. He's one of the most down to earth kind of dudes. Like, we were talking about like vegan restaurants and like, oh yeah, this is great. This is delicious. Like, go check this out, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, time to do a take. Like, Satan voice, Satan voice, Satan voice. Yeah, man. So like, I really love this, like, whatever place. And like, just is, yeah, A+ human being and even better vocalist. And also a talented multi-instrumentalist. So like, screw you, save some for the rest of us. But thank you so much, Luke.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I know a couple cats like that. That's just, especially shouts to my dude Jacob and Beguiler. I don't know if you're familiar with Beguiler, but I do. Most soft-spoken, like, just a sweetheart of a guy, and then he just, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, speak softly and carry a big stick, man. That's it.
That's
like,
it.
It's like the Homer Simpson. It's like, no, man, the little quiet ones are always the craziest. I want to see where this goes. It's the same thing, man. Like, the most soft-spoken dudes, like the nicest, humblest guys. It's like, because they understand what they don't know. That's what I find, like, a true master or something is like you understand how much more there is to learn.
Yes.
Like, there's that whole, like, that Dunning-Kruger effect where it's like you're so dumb at something you don't realize how bad you are at it until you realize how much there is more to learn. Like, every guitarist goes through that. They, like, you learn one pentatonic scale, you're like, yes, I can play any solo ever written, and then you realize, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. I know nothing at all.
Well, that's it, right? It's like, it's even with podcasting. I'm like, yeah, I've been around the block a few times. I've been doing this for a few years. And then I see someone come out of the gate, their
With
first
crazy,
episode. And I'm like, wow, okay.
But again, though, what you don't see, though, is like what we were talking about is the whole getting everything together.
Yes,
you don't see them struggling to learn how to use their new gear, and the 10 videos they didn't post because they were god awful or the sound didn't work or whatever. But it's like that same thing. It's like that there's that post going around now, and it's true. It's like your first podcast is going to suck. Your first song is going to suck. Your first drawing, whatever, they're going to suck. So get it out of the way, get it out now, be reckless now, just throw a bunch of paint at a canvas and whatever happens, and be like, oh, that was cool. And the parts that you do like, learn how to do that on purpose. And the parts that you don't like, well, stop doing that and do the parts that you do, and then just keep trying shit. It sounds really simple because it is, but the hard part is doing it over and over and over until it's only the stuff that you like. And it's hard. It's hard as hell.
Well, definitely. And speaking on that, with the recording process for Painted Pictures, and then also The Rain, because as we are recording this, Rain has been released as well, obviously.
For sure.
When you're in the studio in a situation where you're playing something that, for the most part, like you were touching on a little bit earlier, where it was kind of written by someone else, do you have to kind of almost... I guess my question is more, do you have to kind of like get out of your own head almost a little bit, where it's like, okay,
yes,
I have to play this way. It makes sense. Oh, maybe I should do this. No, this works.
Yeah, both, honestly. You have to toe that line. It's a cliche for a reason because it's super true. Is every musician, the mark of a good musician is you must serve the song and be able to listen to what's going on around what you're doing. That's the most important part. Is like as a bassist, like I haven't played in any bands with a keyboardist, but I know like my friends who play, whether they play in their church or they play in a blues band or they play in a more like strings and piano centric type of music, but they still play guitar. There's still guitars and basses.
a lot of the time, as a bassist, you just have to stay out of the way of your keyboardist's left hand because you're playing in exactly the same frequencies. You more often than not will end up basically playing what their left hand is playing if you're not careful, because it's the same stuff. So you have to, both of those musicians now have to toe that line of like, yes, I can play. It's, can you? Sure. Should you?
Yeah.
Right. So it's served that song. Like there's one part in the song we haven't released yet, but it was that thing Avery and I both heard, and it was this bass walk up, and it only ended up making it into like one of the choruses because it's a little much, but it's cool. We both heard it. It's just like boo doo 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 doo. It's just a run up of minor chord. It's really, really simple, but we just both heard it in this chord change. And I heard it the first time. I'm like, do you want me to? And he's like, yes, I'm so glad you heard that. Like, but we both had that, like, oh, I hope he hears this, because like I don't want to be the one to say it, because we're gonna be cool if we do it, and I'm gonna be sad if we don't. But we were both kind of towing that, like, he's towing that line of like, okay, you're the bassist, I don't want to write all your parts for you, and I'm towing up to the line of like, okay, but you wrote this basically orchestra and it's beautiful, and I don't want to muddy the water too much with trying to be like, look how cool I am, look how many weird intervals I can play, right? So so both, you just serve the song. Like it like I said, it's a cliche for a reason. You just need to look at the bed of music that you've been given and see where you fit. And there are times where, you know, of course we disagree on like, oh, that's too much, that's not enough, do that 4 times instead of 8, do that 2 times, do that no times, do that whatever. But yeah, it's all give and take. It's all give and take. Everything is.
For sure. Well, so before we kind of get ready to wrap it up here, what's like, as we're dropping this, it's April 30th now. So in the context of now, these 2 singles have been dropped. What's kind of next? Obviously, there's probably some stuff you can't talk about, obviously, but kind of what's the next game plan now for words like Wildfire? What are your...
Well, the answer to that 2 months ago would have been, we're going to get back on the road and we're going to start playing some shows, but that is going to be postponed. Like, honestly, kind of pessimistically, but realistically, that's probably going to be 2021 before like real touring life for anybody picks up to any semblance of normalcy. Sure, but what's next for us as far as the digital life goes is kind of adapting to this. I've been doing a lot of acoustic streaming stuff just by myself, acoustifying new stuff, the old stuff, dusting off old covers. But for words specifically, like The Rain is part 1 of a 3-part series. That series itself touches on mental illness, substance abuse, how they go hand in hand, how they can affect you and everyone around you. And like the more people we told this story to as we were making this, it's a video trilogy. Like, we shot 3 videos in 3 days at my parents' house, and it was crazy. Alex from the Trenches is a warrior, and Avery had this idea, and I wrote the script, and I sent it to Alex. Oh, sorry, 20% battery. I sent it to Alex, and he just kind of gave me the like, no, dude, I get exactly what you mean. Let's do this.
That is a talented cat too, man.
He's a killer. He's a nice, cool killer, and he's another one of those guys that's just quiet and humble, and just is just a silent serial killer behind the scenes. He's relentless, and I respect the shit out of it. It's amazing, and very honest. I love working with him, like, because I was being the annoying producer kind of thing, like, no, do it this way, shoot this way, and he was very receptive to that. But there were times where he'd turn around and be like, hey, dude, go away. But oh, my mom's calling.
I lost you completely.
But it's just I know you hired me for a reason. Now let me do. Are you?
Sorry, you're back. Sorry, yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, so yeah, but Alex just basically like, you hired me for a reason. Let me do my damn job, and it was like, yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, cool. And it ended up being great. Really, it was awesome. And we've got not only the 3-part music video, which is going to be dope, but between each of those episodes, there's another single off the EP, and we've got another vocal feature coming up, and it's from a heavy hitter. So it's kind of an open secret at this point, but if you know, shh. But it was cool. It was cool to have one of the big boys say, okay, yeah, cool. Because they absolutely could have just turned us down, but they didn't. And it was very cool. But to have to try to sing the part live, which I'm now tasked with, is again humbling, but also reassuring that it's like, okay, I can kind of hang, like, cool. But it was really neat. Just getting this thing out in the world has been, a year in the making. And we're trying to do it the best service we can with the currently limited reach that we have as a small band on Facebook, especially now because everybody's trapped inside. So everyone's posting. All the digital footprints are getting so much bigger for everyone. So there is that big adaptation we've all got to go through. But that such is the music industry. Like, I feel like streaming shows are here to stay. Like, even when normal touring and everything starts up again for most people, like, I still, like, that's such a fucking powerful tool, man. Like, to have that, even if it is a live show, but you have, a 360-degree view from the desk that you can basically be in the middle of the pit, but have stream quality audio. Like, that's a powerful tool, especially with, I'm not even going to go to the conspiracy theories, but especially with 5G coming, and the power that it has on all on the speed of transmission. Like, that's a near reality of being able to, go to Coachella if you live in Antarctica, and it'll be like you're there. That's going to be really cool. So I think that's something that we need to adapt to. Like, I've been really pushing the guys, especially Ian, because he's kind of the cable wrangler master of the live show. Just like, hey man, like, we need to figure out how to get ourselves streaming. Like, even if it's just rehearsal, even if it's just practice, even if it's just one song, for one night a week that we just put out regularly, we need to get our digital footprint bigger, because this whole I'll even realize I don't know what else, because it was just, the world is so huge and there's so many people, but it's like, we live in the future, man. Like, we're in we're thousands of kilometers apart, and I'm talking to you at the volume on my, like, this is literally Star Trek. I'm holding my little comm unit and I'm talking to you in real time, face to face, and we can record it. Like, it seems like, yeah, of course we are, but really, like, think about it. Like,
it's crazy to really think about.
For more human history than that's been possible, it's been impossible. You know what I mean? Like, it hasn't been nearly 100 years since, maybe almost, if you count radio and stuff like that, but just barely at this quality, at this speed. It's crazy, man.
For sure, man. Well, so before we head out here, I got one last question that's kind of always a fun, fun thing to always ask people. Do you have, from your point of view, either a favorite or a least favorite show, but it's a funny story, that you've ever played?
I don't know what my favorite is, because there's been so many crazy ones, and there's probably going to be one that I forget. And I don't know if the least favorite, but the most memorable for bad reasons. I won't use any names. But we were at a venue that was supposed to be a festival. And it was one of those, like, million band festivals that no one really likes playing, because you end up waiting most of the day. Even if every band is great, it's like nobody wants to watch 20 bands in one day in the same venue on the same stage. Like, it's just, it's not fun. But so we were there, and the show ended up, like, it was just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The sound guy ended up, he just didn't like us from the beginning. Like, as soon as he heard in-ear monitors, we were dead to him. And it's funny, because our in-ears, we try to make it as little work for everyone else as possible. Like, they're totally self-contained. You don't do anything differently than you would just setting up microphones, but he wouldn't hear it. So we ended up almost fighting the sound guy. Like, he grabbed me by the neck, and then, like, Avery swung at him.
Shit.
And the security guard grabbed him, and we ended up out on the street. Like, nobody was hurt. Everybody was fine. Like, even the sound dude, like, when we were packing our stuff up, because we're like, okay, we're not playing now. Like, we just, like, literally fought the venue staff. Like, let's go home. Like, screw this. That's brutal. He was winding up. He's like, they can still play. I don't mind. We're like, man, are you out of your mind? Like, no. So I feel like there was more than a little drugs flowing through the backstage of that show, and there was a little bit of pharmaceutical assistance going on with the machismo in the venue that day, but it was just a shit show.
It ended up being kind of it's a funny memory, but I was vibrating, man. Like I'm usually pretty good at keeping myself level. At least now I've kind of grown into that, but it was, I mean, dude literally grabbed me by the neck. Like had Avery
fucking furious.
Like I was livid. Like Avery I just saw a handful of drumsticks come over my head, and it was like, I'm glad it was you, because it was gonna be me. And like, yeah, I'm whatever. I mean, I'm holding, 10, 20 pounds of solid maple around my neck, and I know how to swing it pretty fast. So I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad it wasn't me.
Would have been a whole different story.
Oh yeah.
There'd be a mugshot going around or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my bass is almost as tall as I am, so I effectively triple my reach just by swinging it around. So it's a very effective medieval flail, if nothing else.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to finally get you on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun.
The pleasure is mine, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Be sure to check out Words Like Wildfire wherever you find your music. Real quick, what are the socials for Words Like Wildfire?
Twitter is Words Like Fire, because our band name's too long to fit in a Twitter handle. Words Like Fire. Instagram is Words Like Wildfire. Facebook is Words Like Wildfire. You can find all of us tagged in all the photos, so go follow us if you want to see our personal shenanigans. Yeah, follow us, like us, friend us. We try to answer everything, blow all of our phones up. It's actually us still. So yeah, help us engage our social media to the point where it can't be us anymore. That's my goal.
Either. All right, AJ, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Hodder. You too. Stay healthy.
All right, gang, there you have it. My chat with AJ from Words Like Wildfire. Hope that you enjoyed it. I know I did. Oh, it's a super fun chat, and AJ is a great storyteller and just very engaging. So that was a lot of fun for me. And I hope that maybe you learned some cool stuff about him and the band, and that you love the track. I know I do, and I'm very excited to review the EP whenever it does come out. Like he said near the end there, everything's kind of a little up in the air ski at the moment, but I will let you guys know as soon as I know anything about a release date. Rest assured that it will be posted on the Hodder Show social medias. And as far as that's going to end off today's podcast. I want to thank you guys so very much for tuning in, taking the time to check us out here on the Hodder Show. Regardless of how you're listening to the podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a rating if you can, leave a like, or however you're listening. It really means a lot to me that you guys take the time still to check it out. If you're listening on the YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Maybe I'll do some more video stuff. Obviously last week's my chat with the guys in Rolls Royce about the COVID-19 pandemic was video as well. This one was video here today. Who knows? Maybe now that my webcam's, pretty okay, pretty decent, and my internet connection seems to be holding steady for the most part, maybe we'll start doing a little more video here on the Hodder Show. I don't know. I tried it before, and my internet was just not good enough, but now maybe. Who knows? But let me know if that's something you guys would like to see, more video type content from the show here. And if maybe you'd like me to upload them onto Facebook, if they're video, or Instagram even, I could do that, I think, in the IGTV or whatever. Just let me know, but be sure to check the Hodder Show out on social media as well, all at the Hodder Show. Email me anytime, thehoddershow@gmail.com. If you have any comments or questions, or if you want to come on the show or anything, this is a time where a lot of people are hanging at home, and a lot of people have a lot of free time on their hands. Unfortunately, boys actually, my schedule is actually kind of crazier than normal just because of everything that's going on. But I will do my damnedest to make sure that we get an episode recorded and banked. Worst case scenario, even if it doesn't come out like the week of or anything. That's kind of what I've been doing here lately, is just recording episodes whenever we can that I know you guys are going to enjoy, and then dropping them as we go here. And I'm very excited because we have some really cool stuff coming up. Really cool stuff, and I'm very excited. Just like I'm very excited to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Of course, we have my boy Will from Rolls Royce, which you heard last week and the week before on the show. Go check Rolls Royce out. They are the premier punk band out of Toronto. Of course, my boy Scotty, who has been a friend of Scotty's for freaking ever, like as long as I can remember, for God's sakes. And I would normally plug his business right now, Suds Window Cleaning. But obviously, as I record this, still he's not able to work or anything because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But when all this is over, if you need, your windows cleaned or something power washed, hit up my boy, Suds Window Cleaning. He's the best in Clarington. You won't find anybody better than him. And I thank both you guys for helping to support the show by being Patreon supporters, hotheads. If you are interested in all that, please check it out at patreon.com/The Hodder Show. Any subscriptions to that, you'll receive bonus content as well as it will help grow the show. And as I've said quite a few times in the past, in order for the show kind of to get to the next level and me to keep improving things, it's a financial thing. It's not through lack of me wanting to or through lack of me not having great guests or anything like that. It's all Zamula. So if you have an extra buck every month you want to help to support the show, please consider it. If not, that's okay too. I just appreciate the hell out of you guys listening. Big shout as well to the sponsors of the Hodder Show. If you're watching video, you can see over my shoulder here. There it is. Yay, my canvas backwards. Mr. J. Burgess Large, thank you very much again, my man, for all your support. As well as, boom, Mean Beard right here, the best beard care brand in the world. If there's one thing I'm grateful for at the moment, it's the little things in life. And let me tell you, being able to take care of my beard at the moment and keep it nice and soft and itch-free is a very simple but fantastic pleasure to have at the moment. And I hope that you have found some kind of simple pleasure in today's episode of the show. Thank you so very much again for listening. Audio and video fist bump. Boom. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on The Hodder Show. Take it easy, guys.